Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We're very excited to be interviewing Greg Manley, Director of the Kingdom down in San Diego, by way of the Pacific Northwest section of the PGA. Greg was the general manager in Meridian Valley Country Club up there. He was also past president of the Pacific Northwest section. He's won the Golf Professional of the Year award and the Bill Strasbaugh section awards up there several times. Intense background in mentoring and governance and leadership. And by way of the last 8 months, he's been the director down at the Kingdom in San Diego. Greg reached out to me when he learned about the Catalyst webinar series and some of the webinar-based education formats and platforms that we do here in the Southern California section, and wanted to get involved. And we penciled in this date. Actually, we penciled in a couple dates, and we're able to get him on this morning. Good morning, Greg. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series.
Hey, good morning, John, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on here. You have a storied career, and before we get into the Q&A, I'd like to introduce you to the room and tell us about how you got started in his career, where you came from, what you've been doing, and how you made your way to the Kingdom.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it's storied, but it's certainly long, which means I'm old. But yeah, there's a lot of things. The PGA of America is one of my passions for sure. I served 19 consecutive years in governance up in the Pacific Northwest section, either in the Western Washington chapter or as a section board member, and ultimately president and honorary president too. So governance is a big deal to me. It's helped my career tremendously. I can't encourage other PGA professionals enough to get involved. Raise your hand and be a part of the governance of your own association. I think somebody has to do it. And so that was kind of my mantra from the start. If somebody's going to do it, I might as well raise my hand and get it done myself. Mentoring is a massive part of what I've done, both by being mentored by other PGA professionals and other businessmen outside of the industry, but also one of the greatest things I think I can do is give back my 27 years of knowledge as a PGA professional and help others become better than ever. So those are a couple of my passions and kind of what the two things that have guided my career for as long as it has. Can't hear you anymore. Are you on mute? You are on mute.
So you want to talk a little, sorry about that. You want to talk a little bit about your tenure at Meridian and how that kind of paved the way into governance, and also your ultimate managing the property as general manager?
Yeah, so I grew up in a town called Puyallup, Washington. It's a really small town, which was probably 15 minutes from Meridian Valley Country Club, which is in Kent, just south of downtown Seattle. I started as an assistant professional. I can tell you the first day, Doug Doxey, who, if you know anything about the Pacific Northwest section and PGA professionals, is the godfather of the Pacific Northwest section. He's the head professional at Seattle Golf Club, one of the most prestigious clubs up there.
That's Ted. You said
he
Ted
was the head.
Doxey?
Doug Doxey.
Doug Doxey. That's probably going to be a quiz question right there. That's
a test. And if you spell his name right, it's even better. He's our District 14 director currently, but he's a legend. He hired me at Meridian Valley as a third assistant, and I'll never forget my first day. He said, "Take the range balls down." We had big garbage cans of range balls. Take the range balls down, start setting up, and I'll be down there to help you. And I went around the first corner with the garbage can of range balls in my passenger seat, and they went right out the side because I wasn't hanging on to it, right in the pond. And in the Northwest, you own the shop, you own the carts, you own the range balls. So I was fishing range balls out of that pond as my first day at Meridian Valley for a couple of hours anyway, and Doug was not happy with me. But I stuck around and ultimately was the director of golf and general manager after 27 years of being there. And quite honestly, probably could have worked another, I'm 50 years old, I could have worked another 12 to 15 years and maybe retired after 40 years at the same facility in the Northwest. But this job at Taylormade came available, and through just kind of some support with Taylormade as a brand, and I can get into that history too with my career in Taylormade, but this opportunity became available, and I tell everybody.
So Meridian Country Club, that's Meridian Valley, that's the only club that you had ever worked at?
Yeah, I had a brief stint at another club up there right out of college for like 3 months until Doug Doxey called, said, "Hey, I need you. I want to hire you." And the rest was history. So I spent my whole career at Myrtle Valley Country Club. We had an LPGA Tour event for 19 years, and a lot of things went on at Myrtle Valley. It was a great place, great people, fantastic Ted Robinson golf course. Myrtle Valley was built 2 years before Sahalee was built by the same architect. Ted Robinson did Sahalee kind of in that same time frame that Myrtle Valley was built. And yeah, I literally went through every seat in the golf department, ultimately managing the whole club before I left.
How long were you the general manager there prior to moving?
About 11 years as a general manager.
Now, was the move to Taylormade planned, or were you recruited, or were you looking to move? Can you tell a little bit about that?
I wasn't looking to move.
To
the Kingdom at Taylormade was a special place to me as a Taylormade staff professional for 25 years. I think I was with Taylormade since 99. So what is that, 23 years? I brought members down multiple times every year to get fit. The cool thing about the Kingdom is I bring my members here. They get fit professionally by the greatest fitters in the industry. And then all the business gets sent back to my account back at Myrtle Valley. So it's a perfect setup for our staff professionals to bring guests. And the prior director here had retired, and I was down here and hadn't heard that. And my role at Taylormade at Myrtle Valley was a presidential advisory board member. There's 12 of us in the country. And so I felt an obligation just to kind of help fill the seat going forward. So I just, as a board member, offered, "Hey, let me help you write a job profile, job description. We need a PGA professional at the Kingdom just to enhance the service level and come from that industry." And they kind of, went back and forth. We talked about it, and they posted the job, and I just felt good helping out. And then it kind of came at the end of last year, the end of the season last year. "Greg, we want to talk to you about the job here at the Kingdom." And the rest is kind of history, I guess. For the last 8 months, I've been sitting in the director chair here at the Kingdom and working every day to make the experience as good as it possibly can be from a private club perspective. And I think our guests are enjoying what our team is putting out.
Fantastic. You want to talk a little bit about how, and I'm assuming this is going to go back to Doug, but how you got involved in governance in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. Doug was the leader and my mentor for sure. My first mentor in the golf business. And I wanted to be everything Doug Doxey was. He's a fantastic player, a fantastic teacher, an uncanny businessman, and really just understood how to have a relationship with the membership and not cross the line of trying to be too friendly, but being completely professional. But everybody loves Doug Doxey. So I learned a lot from him working for him. And then when he left to go to Seattle is when I kind of took over at Myrtle Valley, and there was an open seat. Somebody had moved out of the chapter for the Western Washington chapter. And so I called Doug and said, "Doug, I think I'd like to get involved and I'd like to do that." And he said, "You're not ready." That was his advice. And it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, but his point was, you just bought this golf shop. You have this massive business that you're trying to figure out how to run, and in due time, you'll be able to serve, and he thought I'd be great at it. And so I didn't throw my hand up, and I didn't serve at that time. And then a couple of years later, they asked me to serve. And that's kind of how my whole PGA governance career got kicked off. And I served as an education chair and tournament chair and all the chairs in the chapter, eventually becoming president of the chapter. And then that kind of rolls you into the section board. Just kind of kept going through the chairs.
Now, did Doug own the shop prior to you?
He did. Yep. Yeah, I was almost 27, 26 years old, and the club came to me and said, "Hey, we want you to be the next head professional." And I thought, great, what a great idea that is. It's an amazing opportunity. You don't get those opportunities at nice clubs very often. And I had just purchased a house for $99,000, and I was going to be in debt for the rest of my life, up to my eyeballs. And that was a lot of money back in the mid 90s or early 90s. And the club said, "Congratulations, you're the head professional. You owe us $135,000 to buy all the carts and all the merchandise and all the equipment." And I went, "What?" because I hadn't figured that one out yet, right? So I had quickly scrambled and grabbed another business mentor of mine. We wrote a business plan. I went to the bank, the closest bank down the street, because that's all I knew, and pitched them my business plan, and they wound up ultimately giving me a loan, and that's how I got started in the golf business. So, or I got started as a head professional anyway.
Now, was it an immediate success, or was there some stress and uncertainty?
Oh no, there's always. Yeah, owning the golf shop is an interesting proposition because there's so many upsides, but there's so many downfalls. And in those early years, when I was just trying to figure it out, I learned by failing more than I learned by succeeding. And that's actually a great way to learn. But there's a few months in the wintertime in Seattle where it rains, 60 days straight, where you have $100,000 in inventory on the floor, and you're trying to figure out whether you should pay yourself. Is that responsible to pay yourself that month? And how do I sell this merchandise when I have no members here? And so, yeah, there's always bumps in the road for sure. And those were my greatest learning lessons. So.
Fantastic. So ultimately, I know you were taken aback when Doug told you that you weren't ready. How did it come about that you actually did ultimately get involved?
That was an appointing position because somebody was moving out of the chapter, so they just need somebody to volunteer and fill the last year and a half or something of that person's seat on the board.
How long after Doug had moved on and you had been owning the shop did that take place?
It was pretty recent, probably a year and a half or so. I don't know exactly, but it wasn't too long afterwards. Looking back now, he was 150% correct. My feet were still wet. I was trying to figure out the whole world and how do you do payables? And I don't have time to give lessons and start and teach and do all the things that I'm supposed to do, and then manage all these payables and receivables and all the things that go along with owning that business. So in hindsight, it was fantastic advice. And I thank him for that all the time. But then literally the normal elections came about. And so I thought a couple of years later, I probably would be ready. And I didn't stop for 19 years in governance, and still actually am involved in the section and on a couple past president committees up there. So.
Oh, and I forgot to mention to the attendees and the members in the room this morning, this is an open discussion. So if you guys and gals have questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand and get involved. I want to make this morning's Catalyst as interactive as possible. As you see, Greg doesn't have a presentation, so to speak. This is a fireside chat, open discussion, and everybody in the room is encouraged to participate. So I just want to throw that out there. Now back to you, Greg. We've spoken several times over the last couple of months in penciling in this morning's discussion, and it's apparent that you are very, very passionate about mentorship. I think you identified that, Southern California section, we like to be ahead of the curve. We're the third largest section in the country. We have a lot of people, a lot of associates, a lot of members, and we have our own associate and mentorship committee headed up by Tom's son, who's out of the San Diego chapter. We are passionate about membership as well. And I think that's kind of, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I think that's what kind of brought us together, because you are also passionate about mentorship. You want to talk a little bit about how you became so passionate about mentoring?
Yeah, it started as a mentee, right? I was the one that needed the mentorship as a young golf professional. Certainly as a young head professional, I didn't know everything. I might have thought I did. And at 26, 7 years old, you think you are 10 feet tall and bulletproof. But I quickly realized that I needed help. And I think, in the mentorship world, being vulnerable and asking for help, especially in the PGA mentorship world, asking for help and being vulnerable is a fantastic trait. You don't know everything, and there are people that can help you in whatever area you're struggling with. And being vulnerable enough just to reach out and say, "Hey, John, I need some help. What do you think about this?" That's the basic 101 of mentorship right there. And then I think as a mentor, you have to lead with empathy. If you call me for something, I care about you because you're asking and I'm going to help. And that's the fraternal part of the PGA of America that is so important to our careers. And I'm lucky enough to have served. And so, Jeff Johnson was the president when I was coming up through the chairs of our section. And so I got to understand things from him. And you can't get anywhere in life on your own. And I think that's maybe the biggest point out of mentorship that I learned. And certainly of the people that I've helped along the way in my career, if they're willing to ask, I will be all in on them. It's the ones that don't want the help, the ones you can't waste your time trying to help because they don't want it anyway. And that's a sad reality sometimes, but there's so many great resources and people in this industry and in the PGA of America. Look at Tom Addison, look what he's done as our CEO and executive director of our section now. So, I mean, he was president of the PGA of America. And if I needed something, I know I could call Tom. And I have. When I was coming down here, I called Tom, and he was gracious and grateful to help and answer all my questions. And mentorship is embodied in the PGA of America. Mentoring is embodied in all these young professionals that we need in our ranks to carry our business forward, need that mentorship, whether they know it or not. And so all of us that are longer in the tooth need to be available for those people and answer phone calls and respond to texts or emails when somebody needs help, because that's part of what this fraternal organization is about.
Got a question here from Anthony Alonza from Monarch Beach. What areas of the business from a private club sector carried over to helping you the most at the Kingdom?
Great question. You know, I didn't know what was going to carry over. I knew that this was an experience-based operation. People come here, ultimately, the basic rule they're coming here for is to purchase golf clubs. And so we can just be salesmen and sell golf clubs. But if we give a holistic, encompassing experience around the fitting and purchasing experience, that's very similar to what a private club does every single day. At a private club, your job is to have the member have the greatest experience while they're on property and be proud to pay their dues and be proud to be a part of the name of the club and the logo and all the things that go with that. There's pride and ownership at a private club, and the experience has to be amazing, or you don't have the culture in the club that will have the stature that you think it should. And from us meeting our guests in the parking lot here at the Kingdom, all the way to carrying their bag back out to their car when they're done here at the Kingdom, is really kind of the focus that we started with. And I started on January 4th of 2022 here at the Kingdom. We led with experience first, and experience is everything. I'm a firm believer. Owning my own golf shop taught me that as long as I take care of the members, they're going to want to buy stuff from me. And when your livelihood is built on how much of that stuff you do sell, you learn that pretty quickly, that the greater level of service I provide and the nicer person and the more helpful I can be to those members, the more they're going to invest in me as well. And that's served me fantastically throughout my career. But to answer his question, Anthony's question, it's more eerily similar than I expected. I'm coming to a corporate world. I'm coming to a club fitting. This is a driving range, right? You could literally say I'm a driving range professional now. But it's a really high-end driving range with really high-end experiences and really high-end services. And so my private club background with those high-end experiences has fit in very well here. And the team's getting better. We're cruising every day, trying to work to be better and provide the greatest club fitting experience on the planet.
So obviously the busier you are, the harder it is to uphold that red carpet service experience. Post-pandemic, how busy is the Kingdom, and how difficult is it to uphold that high-end experience?
The Kingdom is as busy as it's ever been, just from looking at past year's financials and fittings and looking at the calendar. You know, we serve a lot of purposes here. The Kingdom was built originally just as an R&D driving range. Basically, we have a robot that tests golf balls every morning at 5:30, just in our R&D department there. So the Kingdom serves as R&D, sound testing, golf club testing. You know, they've been testing the new products for 23 for the last 4 months or so up here at the Kingdom. So there's a lot of things that go on here. The content team, our social media content team, does a lot of photo shoots up here. Chris Trott, if you follow Trotty Golf on Instagram, please, if you don't, please do, because he's amazing. He films all his content from our private flick tee. We had Tiger Woods here for 3 days right before the British Open. Tour players come. There's a lot of things that happen at the Kingdom on top of, hey, we have 3 fitters and we have our average consumer coming in to get the best fitting experience they possibly could even find on a daily basis. So post-pandemic, I mean, during the pandemic, I wasn't here, but we certainly, our Gears Bay, our putter lab, which are indoors, we kind of had to massage and not use. We had to keep everybody outside, all the whole indoor restrictions. Now today we can welcome them with open arms and give them a hug if they want, and give them that fantastic experience all around the club fitting experience.
So how do you see the Kingdom evolving and changing and adapting over the next 3 to 5 years?
So I think that's a good question. I think Taylormade as a company is massively invested in the PGA of America. There's all kinds of things that they invest in, millions of dollars. There's 3,500 staff professionals in the United States. That's just a start, but we support all the section championships and the national championship and PGA Junior League and the club championship, which is a new one. Lots of stuff goes on with Taylormade and the PGA of America. And so as a former staff professional, as a PGA professional, my heart is in the staff program, and the Kingdom should be the hub for all of our staff professionals. They should feel like it's one of their homes. They can come here anytime they want to get fit. They can bring their guests and give their members that experience as well. And one of the greatest assets I had was using the Kingdom with my members. So to hop on an airplane from Seattle, it was a 2-hour flight, come down here, play golf, go to the Kingdom one day, have a dinner. I built relationships with my members farther than I ever could on property at my club in Seattle. And so I think Taylormade Kingdom evolving as that kind of home for our staff professionals is vitally important to me. And we'll continue to lead with technology and the best possible turf conditions and brand new range balls and all the things that we do here that are very high level. And we'll evolve it to include the PGA professional more than it ever has been.
So to talk a little bit about the consumer, the public, can you walk us through their experience from making the reservation to arriving there, where they go when they get there, what you do with them when they're there, the fitting duration, and how the whole process goes?
Yeah, we have 2 start times. We have a 9:30 session and a 1:30 session. So when our guests get here, we're staying outside in the parking lot waiting for them. They've had appointments for 2 to 6 months waiting for their appointment at the Kingdom. So we know they're coming. We're going to be out there waiting for them. We greet them in the parking lot. We grab their bags. We show them to their locker in the locker room here at the Kingdom, which we have a full replica set of Tiger Woods bag, staff bag, every golf club that he plays down to the exact specs that he plays, shaft grip, lie angle, loft, the whole deal, which is a pretty cool thing. John comes in the Kingdom, you got a locker right next to Tiger Woods. So that's certainly a big photo opportunity. And we had a lady almost faint a couple of months ago. Is Tiger Woods here today? She just couldn't handle herself. But so that's where the experience starts. It's a fantastic kind of first greeting area to be with Tiger Woods. And then we have a gears bay, which will take our guests into the gears bay, which just kind of helps us. That's a 3D motion capture system, helps us understand how they swing the golf club, helps our fitters kind of identify what characteristic of shaft that will help that golf swing. We take them out on the range, they hit some balls. We walk through the whole 14 club bag, and usually it culminates with a putter fit in the putter lab. Our guests leave with a gift bag, which includes goodies from the Kingdom, hats and balls and logoed M&Ms and all kinds of cool things. And then we take them back out to their car, and we instant gratify the driver for sure, and sometimes other clubs as well. So we will literally build you a driver from scratch. We'll take the raw shaft, we'll tip it to your specs, put the sleeve on it, put it in the curing cell. It takes 2.5 minutes to cure the epoxy, put the correct head on it, cut it to the length, put the right grip on it, make sure the swing weight's correct, and we'll send you home with a custom Stealth Kingdom head cover as a souvenir as well. So it's a 3-hour process. That's a quick 30-second overview of the experience. But I can promise you, if you come here, you'll have a great time.
I think it's interesting that you use the word instantly gratify. That's a big takeaway from that experience for sure. The fact that they actually leave with something in hand and don't have to fly back home and wait, 4 to 6 weeks for their clubs to show up. That's very. Yeah,
we all know the supply chain and the challenges the golf business has had in supply chain, not just Taylormade, but all the brands. And getting product is certainly in the world of Amazon, or I can get my whatever it is I want today delivered by 6 o'clock. We're building an instant gratification world for sure. one of the cool things about the Kingdom here in Carlsbad is that we have our own inventory across the street. So all Kingdom orders get special treatment, and you're usually built in 48 hours and shipped out to our guests as well. So while we had a guest here yesterday, we built a driver and a 3-wood forward because he was going to play the farms that afternoon. And so he walked out the door with a new driver and a new fairway wood. And I bet you his clubs beat him back home before he's going to be here all week. I bet his clubs probably beat him back to his club before he gets there. So tour players get stuff built on the spot for them. And the more we can do that here, the more you are treated like a tour player and the better the experience is.
Now back to mentorship. Can you talk a little bit about your outlook and your philosophy? So many things have changed over the last 3 to 5 years, even before the pandemic, regarding the talent pool of associates and the interest and the drive of associates getting into the business, staying with their associateship all the way to membership, and sticking with the business. Can you talk a little bit about where you see that going and what we need to do as an association to foster more growth and support for our associates?
Yeah, I think one of my concerns with the golf industry and the PGA of America specifically is we are not getting the best of the best to join our ranks. There's so many places for good players to go play other than the PGA of America. So many mini tours and developmental tours and all those things. We're losing a lot of those people that have the ability to teach, promote, and play, which is the old school golf professional. If you can teach and promote and play the game, back in the day, that's all you needed to qualify, right? Today, it's a much more complicated industry, but I feel a responsibility to cultivate those people that I come across. We're going to have interns from PGM programs here very shortly in our operation, just to kind of help show them this side of the business as well. But the industry has to change as well. We, as leaders, as general managers, as director golfs, as head professionals, have to give these people opportunities. It costs a lot of money to go through the PGA program. And one of the things we did at Meridian Valley Country Club is we just started a global charitable event and created a foundation for education for the employees. So whether it was a chef or whether it was one of the assistants that needed to go to level 1, we paid for it. And the membership rallied around the global tournament. And we had, vendors sponsor, donate things, and we had auctions, and we had all kinds of games. And there's a lot of money in that fund when I left. And any new apprentice coming into Meridian Valley Country Club, they had a full ride through the program. As long as they were employed at Meridian Valley, we would take care of them with their airfare and their level 1 fees and level 2 fees and level 3 fees, all the way to when they became a member. And so I think things like that are what we have to do as leaders in this industry to help ensure that people can have a pathway through the PGA program. Financial burden is something that's real, and you can't do that at every club. Private clubs are a lot easier to do those fundraisers at, but I think that's just one example of a way we have to help change the industry a little bit and help make it easier for those young people to come through. On top of, hey, I'm here to help. Call me anytime. If you need any information, I'm here to help. I feel that responsibility to every PGA member, whether they've been around for 20 years or a week. And that's what mentoring is to me. I will certainly answer questions, and I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm willing to help. And I think the more PGA professionals we get that have that attitude, the better the PGA of America is going to be.
Speaking in terms of that program that you put together at Meridian, over the years, the 27 years, how many PGA members did you help through Meridian along their way, and how many of them are out there?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't added it up. I don't keep score. I've touched some amazing people. I won't take credit for any of them because they were amazing before I got a hold of them, but I helped them kind of see the light and see a pathway, both golf and non-golf. There's an assistant general manager at Meridian Valley today, Adriana Gajergas, who was a server with a chip on her shoulder, and she became one of the greatest women I've ever met in my life. She's amazing, and she'll keep doing great things wherever she goes. The head professional at Summit Club in Vegas, Robin Lorraine, worked with me for 10 years. She's fantastic too. And I'm not I can't start naming them all because I've been around long enough for I'll forget some of them, but it's been a lot, that's for sure.
Now, you mentioned bringing PGM interns to the kingdom. What other major service changes and structure changes have you made in the 8 months that you've been there?
My strategy to start was to get the experience as high level as possible. That's morphed into, do we have the best possible turf conditions to hit off of every single day? And then how do we just touch them even more? So a PGA intern to me would be super valuable. One is I can get a young person, man or woman, that's already dedicated to the PGA program by being in this university. And then if I can show them, this really is the kingdom is a massively big part of this industry. Not only is it club fitting, not only is it a corporate environment, not only is it a private high club, high experience place, so they can kind of learn a lot of things. It'll be very valuable to have interns here. They can help, facilitate guests when they arrive. They can help facilitate guests throughout the experience. They can shadow and learn from the fitters here as they go through that program as well. So I think it's going to be valuable to those interns. I think once the word gets out, it'll be a sought after position for sure. But again, it's a way to help our young people coming in the industry open their eyes to what really this golf industry can be, because you could do so many things in the golf business. It doesn't have to be a head professional at a private club. It can be a director of instruction. You know all the pathways, but one of my responsibilities here with this intern program would be to expose them to maybe a little bit non-traditional avenue. And how amazing can this job be working at the kingdom? It's a pretty cool place.
Well, there's definitely no question that you're passionate about what you're doing. But for 27 years at the same club in the same section, 2 hours by plane, which is probably 1,200 miles away, only worked at one facility, to make that jump, to leave the section. I mean, I would think that after 27 years at the same private club in the same town, that it would be hard to go to another private club of the same stature in the same town after all those years. How in the heck did you muster up the courage to make the move to San Diego?
It's interesting you use the word courage, because it took a lot. It took a lot of courage to leave. It took a lot of courage to leave what was comfortable. And it was an emotional decision that was a lot of sleepless nights. Look, we're walking out on our friends. We have 3 kids, 2 in college. One's going to be starting high school. All of his friends, he's going to start high school down here. For my wife, it was easy, because if you give her sunshine and a palm tree, she's in for wherever that is. So it wasn't hard to convince her. But yeah, I think the reason that ultimately that I made the decision was that I had been at Meridian Valley Country Club for 27 years, and my head was hitting the ceiling, and there wasn't a lot more things I could do there. I left Meridian Valley with more money in the bank, the longest waiting list it's ever had in history. So I had done what I needed to do there. And like I said earlier, I could have ridden it out for the last 10, 12 years of my career and been fine. But I want to challenge. I want to get better. I want to learn. I want to see a different side. Wasn't just going to take any job. And I had had plenty of interviews in the last 10 years to do those things, but nothing was right. And with David Abeles as the CEO of Taylormade, if you haven't had a chance to meet him, you should, because from a leadership perspective, and I won't say I'm an expert in leadership, but I've seen a lot of leaders in my life, and he is one of the greatest I've ever come across. So for he and I to have that personal connection, for me to fly down and say, hey, David, this is what I think the kingdom could be, and for him to say, we want you to do this, that's really what it took. I want to work for that guy. I want to work for that leader. And yeah, it was a hard decision for sure, and an emotional decision, but I haven't looked back one time at all, because my depth of caring and passion for that Meridian Valley Country Club place, it still feels like my home, but this is my new home. And it provides so many more opportunities for me to grow and learn and be a part of something even bigger than what I was. And that's why I made the decision.
Remarkable. So for the PGM interns that you're going to be taking on, how are you recruiting them?
We haven't done anything yet, but my plan is just to call UNLV, Idaho, the universities that are closest to have those PGM programs, and just say, hey, I need some really special people that are willing to run through a wall. One of the biggest jokes at Marine Valley was I would always ask an interview, can you run? And it wasn't a question to literally see if they could run, but I wanted to see what their reaction was to the question. And that told me everything I needed to know about how amazing this employee was going to be. And so we'll just find, somebody that's amazing that wants to be very successful in this industry, and all they're going to do is make us better anyway. We'll have this young energy running around here, taking care of everybody and being amazing, which is, what our mission is anyway, to provide amazing experiences for our Kingdom guests. That's our mission. So that'll be the criteria. You hire good people. You don't hire resumes, you hire good people. And so when you find good people, whether they have the experience or not, they are trainable. Good people are trainable and want to learn and are hungry and are willing to be mentored. And that's the key, in my opinion, to finding great people that will only enhance the operation.
Will you be offering kind of at a granular level support for the PGM interns with their work experience activities in terms of club fitting, teaching, and daily operations?
Yeah, what a great way to learn it too, right? At the Kingdom, at Taylormade at headquarters. So they're going to learn, they can go step over to the marketing department, they can go step over to the customer service department, they can go step over to the R&D, they can watch the robot hit golf balls in the morning and learn from that. There's so many things that can be learned here at the Kingdom. Just basic private club service is the basic fundamental, but yeah, all those opportunities will be covered. And certainly the doors will be open for them to ask questions and learn along the way. That's the responsibility I have by having an intern in my care, is to give them everything possible that they need.
How many employees do you have at the Kingdom?
So we have 3 fitters. We have a coordinator who's kind of the hub of the whole operation. She takes care of all the calendars and all the scheduling, from the media content to R&D to tour player, everything. She handles everything. She's the hub of the wheel. We have 3 maintenance people. We have 12 acres of grass. 3 full-time maintenance people take care of that. And then we have kind of an outside services person as well that comes in and picks the range every night and cleans the balls and makes sure it's ready for the next morning.
You have 1 outside service employee?
Yep. Currently.
What happens when he's sick? Who picks the range?
Exactly. That's the question we had to answer quite a few times this summer. So those things happen. We're looking at, our annual operating plan is being developed for next year right now. So we're looking at headcount and trying to figure out how this operation, how many bodies this operation really needs to be amazing. And we'll have that figured out here quickly.
I would imagine as a standalone operation, it's definitely profitable. You had mentioned that one of the changes you implemented is good hitting turf every single day. You also just mentioned that you have 3 maintenance employees that take care of those 12 acres. Was that not the case prior to you getting there? And was that not a priority at that time?
Well, every golf course, it's a priority to have perfect greens, perfect fairways, perfect tees, right? And whether the resources are there to provide that or not is really the big discovery for me. So I didn't do anything with the turf, by the way. I'm not the turf expert. You can put me on a mower, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I would never pretend that I did anything with that. But certainly providing the amenities, the products, and the support to make those turf conditions as good as possible is what my job is. And we're getting better all the time, and we'll continue to grow there as well.
Yeah, because that's definitely not easy, maintaining optimum hitting turf, throughout the calendar year. Even in San Diego, it seems like three maintenance guys. Obviously, there's a senior agronomist or a leader on that team that makes that happen.
Correct.
Well, fantastic. Oh, we got one more question here. Well, the question is you had mentioned the Instagram for the Kingdom. What was that again?
So Chris Trott is his name. At Trotty Golf is his handle on social media.
Can you spell that?
at Trottie Golf, TROTTIE Golf. His name is Chris Trott, CHRISTROTT. He's traveled the world on every tour possibly that Taylormade's ever supported in his career. And the last 10 or so was with the PGA Tour on the big truck, on the PGA Tour truck. And a few years ago, he started a Tour Truck Tuesday post that it's spun into a brand of Trottie Golf. And he now works just here in Carlsbad. He doesn't travel on the tour very often anymore. British guy, fantastic speaker. In fact, he and I are flying up to the Pacific Northwest section at the end of September for their merchandise show, and we're going to do an education seminar together. If you want to learn how to build a brand through social media, which golf professionals, especially instructors, could do, that guy is the expert. And his pathway through that, the Kingdom itself doesn't have its own social media channels. We fall under the umbrella of Taylormade Golf. But Chris Trott is fantastic. Anytime, any of the content you see on social media, on YouTube, he is the one. He's the guy facilitating it with our tour players. He does 90% of that stuff.
Is he a product evangelist? Is that his title?
Could be his title, yeah, for sure. That's pretty much what he does, though. He promotes Taylormade as a brand, promotes his own brand, the Trottie Golf brand. Those two worlds don't ever collide; they coexist, and he's fantastic at it. And he's just a good human as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Greg, any parting comments or anything you'd like to leave us with before we wrap it up?
No, I think thanks for letting me speak. This isn't about Greg Manley. It's just about, I've got a unique journey for sure. And hopefully some people can pick some stuff up from that. And I certainly am available anytime anybody wants to have any questions answered or want to pick my brain for sure. And if they want to come see the Kingdom, send me an email and I'll be happy to show them around as well.
Indeed, Greg. We do have 46 PGA members on this morning's webcast, and I'll be sending out a YouTube link of this morning's fireside chat, which will have your contact information in there for everyone on the webinar this morning. Feel free to take Greg up on his offer. He is a very interesting individual, and he's had a wonderful path and journey, and he's a tremendous resource as well, not only as a PGA member, but also as the director of the Kingdom. Greg, on behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, thank you very much. For all the PGA members that are on this morning's webinar, you will earn one PDR credit for being on this morning's Catalyst. For those of you that are viewing the Catalyst after the fact through the section website archives, please take the 10-question quiz. A score of 70% will earn one PDR credit for viewing the Catalyst after the fact. Mr. Manley, thank you very much. Everybody have a great day. Take care.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, guys.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.